Local broadcasts of Insights on PBS Hawaii are made possible by the support of viewers like you. Mahalo, and by First Insurance Company of Hawaii, protecting Hawaii's families and businesses since 1911. Ulupono Initiative, building a more sustainable Hawaii by investing in local food, renewable energy, clean transportation, and waste and freshwater management. Hawaiian Electric. To learn about our commitment to sustainability and reducing carbon emissions, visit hawaiianelectric.com/sustainability. Carl Smith Ball, providing legal services throughout Hawaii and the Pacific since 1857, making a positive difference in the communities where we live and work. Having access to the internet is a necessity in today's world. While the majority of Hawaii residents are cruising in the digital fast lane, there are pockets of people who have unreliable or no connection at all. That digital divide was deepened by the pandemic. The state will get a big boost in federal funds to expand and improve our connectivity. So how will that money be spent? Tonight's live broadcast and live stream of Insights on PBS Hawaii start now.
Aloha and welcome to Insights on PBS Hawaii. I'm Daryl Huff. According to a state survey, about 9.5% of Hawaii households do not have access to the internet. For some, it may be the cost, others where they live, but that could soon change. Next week, Hawaii was awarded more than $149 million as part of the Investment and Jobs Act. That's on top of $115 million from the U.S. Treasury Department. The funds will go towards upgrading and increasing high-speed broadband availability throughout the state. Our panel tonight will discuss how that will be executed and if that will eliminate our digital inequity. We look forward to your participating in tonight's show. You can email or call in your questions, and you'll find a live stream of this program at pbshawaii.org and the PBS Hawaii Facebook page. Now to our guests. Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke has been delegated oversight and leadership of the initiatives to modernize and extend the state's broadband infrastructure by coordinating various agencies to ensure that the state maximizes the federal money. Garrett Yoshimi is the Vice President of Information Technology and the Chief Information Officer at the University of Hawaii. UH leads the Apakau Kaala program that will combine more than $400 million in federal grants and matching funds to ensure the state's long-term connectivity. Burt is the State Broadband Coordinator with the Hawaii Broadband and Digital Equity Office. The newly formed office is working to bridge the digital divide, starting with the state's first digital equity plan that will help to identify and address the needs of the community. And Kaala Souza is a digital equity consultant. For the past several years, he's been involved in statewide community programs that provide free computers and classes with an emphasis on telehealth and workforce readiness. Let me start with you, Burt. Let's start off. What is broadband? I mean, people know what the internet is. Is it simply the internet, or is there more to it than that?
Well, why do you have to give me the tough question?
I thought that was an easy question.
I like it. We start off.
Think of broadband as the pipe, and the pipe can contain information, and the information that is being transmitted via that pipe is the internet. So for an easier understanding, it's kind of synonymous to a pipe that's delivering water. And some pipes might be big, you have more water flowing through it. Some pipes might be smaller and there's less water. So with broadband, you can think of the speed, 100 megabits down, 20 megabits up, is a typical kind of measure of how much bandwidth is going through that pipe. But basically what it's delivering is the internet.
And when you're talking about megabytes and kilobytes and all those bytes, you're talking about data.
Correct.
Pieces of information, right? Kaala Souza, you made an interesting point when we were chatting that what I said there about most people have easy access to high-speed internet, but you're telling me that there's a lot of people that don't realize they are not getting high-speed internet.
Yeah, I'm sorry to do that to you. It really got me.
Okay.
But most people, you're thinking like over 50% maybe. Like 30% of our state is going to struggle with getting making the connection for themselves without having their kid or their grandchild, their mo'opuna, connect for them. So there's the actual challenge of running that cable into the house, but then to have the skills to click on the little thing on the lower right-hand corner, to select your network, and to do that, most people are not going to be able to do that. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about digital literacy.
And also, it sounds like what you're saying is that a lot of people don't even know whether they have high-speed internet or not.
Yes, which is crazy because I ask people all the time, I said, how fast is the speed limit in front of your house? And they go, oh, it's 35, it's 25, so you know that. And they go, how fast is your internet? And like Burt's saying 100 megabits per second down, but they don't know what they're getting. And it would be like giving somebody like $50 to go put gas and you just put whatever you like. So you give your provider $50 and you don't know how much you're getting.
Yeah, you know, Sylvia Luke, Lieutenant Governor, is being handed this. I mean, I know that technology wasn't your background, but this is a multifaceted issue. It sounds like it's a lot more complicated than most people think.
It is. And, you know, I was first interested in this subject because, you know, I was having a conversation with Senator Schatz's office, and Senator Schatz's office has been working very hard with the federal agencies about ensuring that people in the state of Hawaii have internet service. I think during the pandemic, broadband is something that we all kind of thought about in the back of our minds, but it was during the struggles of the pandemic that it became in the forefront, when kids were at home studying online, when people had to work remotely, and even healthcare access. Instead of going to your doctor, you had to get online to check online to do telehealth. And telehealth and broadband services became the forefront. And I think that's what led the federal government to look at this situation and go, hey, you know, we have to learn something from our experiences, and we can never go back. And it became like this forefront. And the fact that we're sitting at this very moment potentially receiving about $400 million from the federal government, which we have never had that kind of commitment before. It's exciting for us, but at the same time, you know, we are excited and happy about this responsibility, but at the same time, you know, we need to make sure that we use the federal funds wisely. We have to ensure that it serves the type of people who are underserved and goes into the community.
Let me ask Garrett Yoshimi from UH, where are the biggest deficits in our service pattern for internet, for high-speed internet?
So actually there's a couple of different areas where there's huge holes in coverage. You know, so one in particular is around some of our very rural areas of the community, far away, some of the, you know, deep in the valleys, high up on the hills, far away from the heavily populated areas. There are folks that typically don't have access to high-speed internet. They may have maybe satellite coverage, a little bit of spotty cell phone coverage, but they don't get the same experience as we get in downtown or on one of our campuses, for example, where we've put quite a bit of investment into making sure that's the case.
So the rural areas, and then what's the other gap?
So the other part that really needs investment, and Lieutenant Governor talked about this a little bit, but the other part is because we're so far away from the continent and far away from other large land masses, and because we're an island state, we also are highly dependent upon those connections that go in between the islands and between us and the rest of the world. Those connections are typically, to most people, they're totally invisible until they break. And you know, one of those occurred pretty recently, just a few years ago. Kauai was cut off for a better part of a day, maybe a couple days.
Burt, when we talk about the way internet gets to my house, I've got internet on my phone, right? So is that the same thing? and what's the relationship between internet I get on my phone, internet that we're talking about, the broadband high-speed internet that is going to be in my computer or on my tablet or in my television set?
So what has happened over the years, and a lot of the companies have wanted to get into this business. So there's a differentiation between providing internet via your cellular company, and those are typically the Verizon's, AT&T, T-Mobile. And then you have the landline providers, and that's the Spectrums and the Hawaiian Tels. If you have internet on your phone, it's definitely a convenience, and you can actually get, access to a lot of websites. But if you really want to, let's say, fill out a form, or you want to write a document, or you want to, let's say, apply for some benefit, it's much better to have it be accessed on your computer at home via a landline connection. So the differentiation is really how you can access via a Spectrum or Hawaiian Tel, or if it's a mobility, you can access it via your phone. But the amount of data and the functionality is probably more robust, with a landline connection on your computer.
Is that just for now, or is it going to get so much better? I guess my question is, for the purpose of our discussion tonight, we're focusing on that line that gets you the internet into your home and into your devices, as opposed to what's coming in on the cellular phones, because I think the average person realizes there's data floating around the air that I'm picking up on my cell phone, and why is that not good enough? And let me ask that of Kaala Souza. Why is, for someone who's in a rural area, why is that cell phone connection not enough? I mean, you could get a tablet, does that take care of the need? Or are we talking about physical access to a cable in almost all cases?
Yeah, I'm kind of like cable, cellular agnostic. It doesn't matter. I just want the speed, right? So I'm doing a Zoom call. I'm on Molokai. We're on the east side, just past Mana'e. And I'm on a Zoom call. And there's AERPs on the call, Hawaii Public Health Institute. And I'm freezing. I'm like, and so you go, how do you do work, right? So it doesn't matter to me how the speed comes. I just want the speed, because it's just the functionality of it. So we can get it from my phone is going to connect to AT&T, or you're going to have the fiber under the water, or the cable, or the satellite. Really, it's the speed. And if we don't have that speed in Hawaii, we're talking about Texas earlier, Lieutenant Governor, and how much money they got. I'm not trying to but they got more than us, but we're like the most isolated, populated place on the planet, and so for us not to be able to have the speed of the internet, it's going to be hard for us to compete. Business, family, connection, school, learning, everything.
Yes, Garrett, Yoshimi. So, are we though? So primarily though, are we talking about getting wires out to these households, or is there an option of over-the-air or broadcast type connections that can save the cost of running all these cables out to people?
So it's actually not one or the other, but it's actually both. What you have to think about to build the foundation for this access is those wired connections are in fact the foundation of the access, so that you can spread the high-speed access as far and wide as possible. And then what happens when you get into your house, when you're driving in your car, the wireless layer that floats on top of it is typically the way you're going to connect from your device to your home internet or your business internet or your car. But what happens over time as the technology gets better, it still depends on that wired layer to start. Then you'll see, again, over time, the wireless stuff gets better and better and better. The technology improves. We're talking about technology improvement before the program. What you'll see is that as long as you have that base infrastructure in place to support the high-speed connections to businesses and homes, then what happens is the wireless layers on top of it can improve, get better and better, and the customer experience or the personal experience in using it gets better.
So, Lieutenant Governor, so are we at a place now in society where we are looking at broadband and high-speed internet as sort of a right as opposed to a privilege? Like so many things that we've paid for all our lives, so that folks like us who are middle class or upper middle class have no trouble paying for this. People who don't have it, well, they don't have enough money to pay for it, and too bad for them. But now we're at a place where we're saying that those people need to have equality of access despite their ability to pay.
You think about it, it has evolved to a point where it it's just as essential as any other utility. So for you to say that you live in an area and you don't have remote access, how do you call in to get, if you're, the only thing that people have nowadays, sometimes is a cell phone. And if your cell phone internet is not working, then how do you call in the ambulance, or how do you call in somebody? I think going back to what Garrett was saying, what we're trying to do is trying to figure out where the pockets are. Where are these individuals? Where are the communities that are not served? Whether it's Puna, whether it's Naalehu, Lanai, Molokai, where is that? Because, in downtown Honolulu, at least we know that whether it's wireless, whether it's Hawaiian Telecom, Spectrum, service providers will serve areas that can afford to pay. In certain areas, it might be 4 homes in a mountain, and what can the state do to ensure that the 4 homes and the families in this community will be served? And how do we ensure that they get, whether it's educational access, healthcare? So just like what Garrett was saying, it's not so much the wired. It could be wired, it could be satellite, it could be even wireless.
I guess what I'm asking, is like, okay, so we've got these companies that have been given the privilege and the right to provide these services, to dig through our sidewalks, to make sure these cables can go into our house. There's a certain amount of regulation that they're under. So why don't we just make them do it and just pay them a little bit more so they can go do it?
Yeah, so I think that's one of the things that we will be looking at, right? So the reason why some of these providers are not going to certain remote areas are because it's not economically feasible for them. But if it's not economically feasible for them, is it the state's responsibility, and now is it the government's responsibility to ensure that, people in all areas have equal amount of access? And what we're saying is yes. Just because you live out in the most rural communities and you don't have the amenities of downtown Honolulu, you deserve just as much, just because these corporations don't want to spend money in their districts.
Kaala, Souza, you're mentioning, I think this is important for people to understand, is that the equity issue that you're responsible for, or that you have taken on, I shouldn't say no one forced you to do this.
Thanks.
is that making sure that even once you get that access to that data pipe, that you know how to use it. How big an issue is that in this community, and how big a part of this initiative is that part? Just literally training and providing the devices out there at where people need them.
First, I appreciate what the Lieutenant Governor said. That made me happy, because the answer was yes. The state does have a responsibility, and the kuleana for that. So I was happy to hear that. But when you think about how big an issue is that, I'm going to say, I was quibbling with the word most, when you were speaking.
Introduction.
Yes,
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all right.
But I'm going to say a good 30% of our workforce is going to struggle with passing a basic digital literacy test, which I'd like to give you after too. I have a little website I put together.
I've been getting better.
I'm going to say 30% of our workforce is not going to be able to pass a basic digital literacy test, and so prove me wrong. And it's so hard to find numbers on. That's like 200,000 people.
Do me a favor. Ask me the hardest question in the digital literacy test.
Can you point to so Burt Lum, who is on this panel.
You mean him?
Yeah, that guy. He's like, Burt is OG in this stuff. Burt's been around for, not that you're old, I'm just saying. But Burt took the test. Maybe you can share with that, because Burt didn't get 100%. I just said
Thank
that
you,
publicly.
Kaala, for bringing this up.
I just said this on TV.
On PBS Insight.
I couldn't wait.
For the
I
world
didn't know who was going to bring this up. I didn't know we were going to go there. It's
recorded too.
But the interesting thing was,
just
go
an
ahead.
It'll go
example.
on the internet.
The questions were varied, and the one that I missed was identifying a mouse. Now, I will admit that there were multiple choices that I could pick, and I didn't happen to see the mouse, so I picked the wrong thing.
Even if it was a picture of a mouse.
Yeah.
And it's a great test. We use this. There's a nonprofit in Minnesota called North Star, and the libraries have been big on this. So the libraries have been saying digital literacy since before we're saying digital literacy. Like they've been doing it. You go into the library, you get help. So I'm going to say 30% of our workforce is going to struggle with passing the test, which is like 80+%. You know, Burt passed. I'm not saying anything about it. But 30% are not going to pass, and that's going to be like identifying. There's a button like how do you turn it on, how do you turn it off, you know, what is the point to the USB port? You know, this the terminology.
Why do you always have to turn it off and turn it on to fix it?
That's only Windows. Sorry.
Anyway, we got to make sure we focus on our questions. So,
I got a question for you. I want you to take that test, and I got the website for you.
okay, but what are the skills that are most lacking out there?
So if you know how to use your mouse, if you know how to connect to the internet, which is what like this whole like these I'm here to watch you guys, but if they can get us fast internet, and then we can use the mouse that Burt knows how to use now, and connect to the internet, open a browser, and then do what you were talking about when you said I'm going to go to YouTube, and you instead of saying I don't know how to, you type in YouTube how do I, then all of a sudden you can learn whatever you want to learn. And so if everybody in our state has this learning mentality, we don't, you know, that's going to change how people learn. So that skill of navigating, opening up a browser, using your mouse, clicking on something that we all take for granted, I'm going to say 30% of our state is going to, without their Mo'opuna helping them or Keiki helping them, is going to have a challenge.
So Burt, since he put you on the spot, what do you think people are lacking out there, and what's the service that they need to get other than, like what Kaala is saying, the computer is a tremendous training tool once you've got the computer up and running. But what about devices and equipment? Do we need to be delivering equipment and devices out there?
So thanks, Daryl, for putting me on the spot again. You know,
You're paid for it. So.
the digital equity work that we do, and I'll give you an example. We were out in Kona, and Kaala was actually doing a class, and this is a digital literacy 001, not a 101. This is a 001. So it's really learning how to turn your computer on, get onto the internet, actually bring up a browser, and for the first time, a Kaupuna, I helped her type in Amazon.com, and it's like the whole world opened up. Now, this same Kaupuna, we wanted to see if she could benefit from something called the Affordable Connectivity Program. And this is a program where you get $30 off your internet service. So we had a little pop-up. We helped her, you know, look at getting signed up. It turns out, I think one of her grandson maybe had already signed her up, but she couldn't actually receive the benefit because she didn't have an email address to receive the acknowledgement. So you ask, what are some of the basic services that people need to know how to do? It's just, get an email account. It's so basic, but we sort of assume that everybody knows how to do that. But I'll tell you, in Kaala's class, there were people that were just applauding the fact that we're starting at such a basic level.
You know, I do have a question that came in, which I think is a good starting point for the larger conversation. Will all this money coming in, will Spectrum get a much better signal on the North Shore? Paul from Kahuku and Kailua. Garrett, Yoshimi, do we have we're talking about little pockets of areas, but most of the state is wired for cable, right? When they talk about, will Spectrum get a much better signal on the North Shore, do you think he's talking about cell phone signal, or do you think he's talking about this actual, what's coming in the internet? What's going on there?
Yeah. So and that's actually right. Hawaii is actually one of the most densely connected states in terms of residents passed. So this means there's service, it's on the street passing your house, and you can call a company to connect it to you, so like the Spectrum service. Part of the caller's question, though, is also, you know, is the service being properly maintained in the area? Like Kaala mentioned earlier, part of it is just, you know what, if you don't think you're getting what you paid for, you ought to call them up and say, hey, my stuff is slow, or my TV picture is fuzzy. I'm paying for this stuff, and they'll roll a truck to fix it.
So I think Kaala was telling us this earlier, that you should know how to test the speed of your internet and hold your company to that standard, right? I mean, and then so, you know, coincidentally, or not coincidentally, or maybe we've really struck something. This is called Aloha Neighborhood Board. This is Ha'ula. We could not even listen to a presentation on Zoom about the monster turbines at Kahuku. There's a little political stuff there, because the internet did not have the space-width for the presentation. When will we get good internet in Ha'ula, Kolaloa on Oahu? I mean, Burt, have we got these gaps, geographic gaps, or is it, as Garrett is saying, it depends on what your place is?
Exactly, and you know, Garrett described the situation where some of the rural communities around the state, Oahu in the case of Ha'ula, they may not, the companies like a Charter or Hawaiian Telmena see the profitability in actually running infrastructure to that location. So what the...
Okay, just so again, I'm representing people out here who are like normal people. You guys are too smart. Okay, I'm out in the rural area, and I'm paying $125 a month for cable TV, right? And it offers internet, so I pay another $30 a month for internet. But you're saying that even if I'm doing that, I might not be getting enough to meet the standard of high-speed broadband?
So just like the...
In a whole neighborhood now, not just me and my house, but the whole neighborhood.
Just like the water analogy, if you look at how you're actually getting the water to your house, there's a number of points along the way that will provide
bottlenecks
about, you know, the necessary amount of water that gets to your house. Now, what has happened along the way may be that there's less amount of bandwidth providing an entire neighborhood with access. So part of the money that the federal funds are going to help to enable is for companies to actually look at, can they make more capacity available somewhere down the line that would...
Okay, good. I got that. So I can stop for a moment. Lieutenant Governor Luke. Yeah. So now is part of what you're trying to do is figure out what proportion of this money is going to go to that problem, the size of the pipe going to Ha'ula or the North Shore, and then how much of it is going to the problem of people not having devices or having slow internet in a house or no internet. Right. How are you guys going to figure that out, and where's the big money going to go?
Yeah, so that's exactly what you're describing is exactly what we're together we're charged with. Yeah. It is about ensuring that people can turn on the computer and do search. You know, that's part of it. It is also about going into underserved area, but there are pockets. So we're not only talking about Lanai, Molokai, Puna, Na'alehu. We're talking about, you know, in Ha'ula or North Shore. Even if you have service, how do we ensure that we have better competition, have Spectrum and Hawaiian Telecom and wireless services get on the same table and charge them, basically challenge them to provide better service, better, higher speed internet. And what we're trying to do is, because now we have federal funds, right now it's all been private providers. And a lot of times private providers are driven by their stockholders, shareholders, and you know whether it's going to be economically feasible for them. But now, because we're adding our basic state or federally funded competition, what that might do is, if we were to increase bandwidth in certain areas, even downtown Honolulu, I can give you an example. I'm sitting in my office, and if you're at the Capitol, you can hook up to the Hawaii state Wi-Fi. But if I hook up to the state Wi-Fi, it doesn't work. So I gotta get off the Wi-Fi, use my mobile service to get on the Wi-Fi. But when I go home, that doesn't work. So the internet at home is not strong enough, or my cell service is not strong enough because certain pockets in my house I can't get cell service.
You're in Nuuanu, right?
I know, in Nuuanu. So I gotta get on the home Wi-Fi. So I'm constantly, on a daily basis, constantly switching back from Wi-Fi to cell service. And I think even in downtown, there are pockets when there's a lot of people going in.
So Garrett, let me understand this. What Lieutenant Governor is describing is a competition model where the state might be actually, or the state or an entity supported by the state might come in and start competing with my internet providers. Is that what we're talking about?
So we are not interested in directly entering as a public entity,
Right, okay.
head-to-head competition with the private sector. However, having said that, one of the things that's really important with this large influx of federal money is it gives us leverage. It gives us leverage to make sure that the public interests are actually raised up to a higher level, so that we can make sure people are connected, and we can make sure that the core pipes, the big water mains, are big enough to feed everybody.
The data main.
Yeah, data mains. You coined it today.
Nice.
Yeah, put it in the dictionary.
Not my usual.
But the size of the federal investment, the size of the public investment, actually does give us leverage, and that's where we're trying to make sure not to get into Hawaiian Telecom or Charter or Verizon's business, but it's to make sure that we can level the playing field where it's necessary, so that we can have a better outcome for the citizens.
Kaala, in this discussion, I want to go back to something that you've said, and again, I'm sort of speaking for the typical cable customer, right? And I love these questions. Like, these people are paying the same amount for their internet as I am, right? And I don't know how good mine is. I'm in Makakilo. I don't know, but is it just a fact that people who are paying the same amount for a service are getting less service or more service than their neighbors because the companies don't want to invest in equal service?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. Speedtest.net, you type that in and you check when you go home how fast your internet is. Then you'll know, like tonight. But the tricky thing is, it's not just, you can have the big pipes coming in, but there's other like blockages in the house. And this is not my area, right? But these are the tech guys here. But what's gonna happen is that your computer, your router, is gonna affect the speed of that. The other thing to think about too is that, you say, if you're paying $50 for your internet, and I'm paying $50 for my internet, and we both live right next to each other, and we're both on cable, we're both on Hawaiian Tel or Spectrum, it doesn't matter. I could still get different speeds just because of the equipment that I'm using. So what Lieutenant Governor is doing is troubleshooting her internet connection. That is challenging to do. Like, I'm gonna go from this one to this one to this one. That's amazing, actually. So you can take the test too. I'm gonna give that to you after. I just want to check, but that's not an easy.
I graduated from college a long time ago. I ain't taking no more tests.
This is easy. 10 minutes. I got a link for you. Gonna hook this up because the more knowledgeable we are, the more aware. But again, you can have $50 here, $50 here. But it's not just Garrett's gonna get the cable. I mean the big pipe here, because in your house you have a computer that's 20 years old. You have a router that's 10 years old. And you have a cable that your cat bit through or something. So troubleshooting that, so we have to have this.
We had wet cables once.
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, no, it was like the water would come in and it was filling this box. And when it rained, the internet slowed down. My wife said, it's raining, the internet's slowing down. I said, you're crazy. The guy comes out, he says, yeah, you've got this box that the water flows into it. It slows down your internet. And I'm like, oh, man. So
you should listen.
That was the last time I didn't listen.
Kalaupapa, when there's a storm, when there's big waves at Kalaupapa on Molokai, the cable hangs down and runs down the mountain. And so it shakes against the mountain. And I went to go check it out. Like, was there end of last year. And we did a class over there. And that affects the speed of the internet. They have pretty good internet down there. I think it's Spectrum. like 100 megabits per second down in that 100-year-old like auditorium. It's pretty legit. But when it's windy, the waves are big, you're out.
Okay, so give me a sense, Garrett. The number $400 million was associated with your office. Can you give me a sense of proportionality? Where's 150 of that going, and 50 of it going, and 40 of it going? Have you gotten there yet?
We've gotten some of the big chunks parsed out, mostly because of the way the federal programs are structured. So they're all, this is a number of programs together to get to the 400 total. And there's a couple of them that will focus primarily on some of the underlying infrastructure. There's like 100 and change. The other part of it, in terms of
pretty soon adds up to real money, $100 billion and change. Right?
And change. The other part of it, though, has to do a lot with figuring out where these pockets sit, and then we actually have to go down in priority order based on how the programs are set up to figure out how much funding gets spent in those buckets, and then we're hoping that we have enough so that we can get and cover all of the different priorities, including things like community hubs, including some of the wraparound services, some of the digital literacy services.
So you're going to have to prioritize even with this, what sounds like a ton of money. Burt, let me ask you a quick question, sorry. Is island by island, right? Again, this is an ignorant question. Does it all go cable by cable under the ocean? Is that the primary focus of it? Or is there microwave towers that send it from island to island? Or does it all come into Oahu, have to be distributed? How does that work?
Okay,
Put you on the spot.
There are versions of what you just described still in existence. So there are microwave links that perhaps connect between, let's say, Molokai and Lanai. Are in the technology that we're in today, most of it should be fiber connected inter-island. So the best way to connect our entire state is to have trans-Pacific fiber cables coming in from whether it's the West Coast or from Asia, and distribution throughout the state via inter-island fiber. But in some of the very hard to get to areas, like I think even in Hana, it was primarily served by microwave connections. So there are some plans to have Hawaiian Tel run fiber along the south route to get to Hana. So that will improve, the connectivity in Hana.
So that's one of the big issues, is trying to get everybody a fiber connection somehow.
That's right, and that's the most robust connection and the connection that will afford you the highest speeds.
How close are we to that now?
Well, that's what the federal government is helping to address with the projects that are underway. So whether it's the Capital Projects Fund and as well as the BEAD program, these are all programs that address various aspects, whether it's trans-Pacific, cable landings, inter-island fiber, as well as last mile connectivity. Now, Daryl, I do want to also say that you asked about the question about how do we actually identify monies that would be available for digital equity programs. And although it's rather small compared to the larger infrastructure projects, we are currently working on something called the Digital Equity Plan for the state of Hawaii. And the plan will then lead to something called the Digital Equity Capacity Grants. Not as much as hundreds of millions, but we're looking at $10 to maybe $13 million, which will go toward digital literacy types of programs. It'll go to things like access to devices, digital navigators, affordability, as well as broadband equity.
Lieutenant Governor, I'm thinking now about Kaupuna. I know, I'm lucky. I'm in a highly intense technological business, right? Television. So I'm constantly forced to learn new technology. But for the average person, there's many, many people, all they have is that cell phone that they can barely use. And it costs them a lot of money. What's the dream in terms of reaching a woman who doesn't even know what she's missing? And how important is it that connection for her improve given the way the services that they need are being provided these days? Are some people getting lost because even the service providers that are dealing with them, the elder service providers, the food providers, they're all going to rely on that technology, and if you can't get hooked up, you're going to miss out.
And you know, nowadays, the way that even government service, we're moving more and more to online service, and that's at the convenience, that's for the convenience of the users. But one of the things that we need to recognize is that there are pockets of people, population out there that are not comfortable with getting on the internet, not comfortable with filling out a form, and still don't trust that. So, you know, we need to cater to all segments of the population. You know, I think for us, part of this funding will be outreach into the communities, engaging community organization. And I can give you an example. On the Big Island, I would say out of all the islands, there are organizations on the Big Island that are much more engaged and further along about, okay, how do we take advantage of not just what's been given to us by the federal government, but there is this program that gives you a discount off your internet bill, and that's called the Affordable Connectivity Program.
I just kind of, sorry to interrupt you, but I am reading these frantically as they're starting to come in. Viewer says his eligibility for reduced internet connectivity at $20 a month expired after 2 years is now $35 and wants to know why the eligibility was limited to 2 years. Are those programs limited for some reason?
Yeah, so right now the federal government has extended that period. And so one of the things that they found was that the people who apply from Hawaii, the level of application has been really low compared to rest of the nation, which is really unfortunate because we're leaving money on the table. And it's actually $35 for individuals, but if you're on homestead, it's actually much more, $75. So if you're on homestead lot, and then you can get $75 off your internet bill, and that's huge, and we're not taking advantage of that. But you know, on the Big Island, you know, we have great individuals, especially Ron Kodani and his wife Doreen, who are community activists, and they are going and educating their fellow homesteaders and educating their neighbors about this program. And we need to find more people like that, whether it's through homestead communities or civic clubs or community organization, or even like Catholic charities, individuals who are involved with, you know, SNAP programs, Medicaid population, where we have to engage them.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who have access to programs that could be trained by the programs themselves, right? Kaala, Souza, question I think that's perfect for you. How are you making sure our homeless families have access to the internet so students can do their homework and they have access to other vital services? Former Kahuku teacher on Facebook, our Kahuku library closes at 5 on weekdays and is closed on weekends. Yeah. You know, that library system too, how important is that?
The library system is just critical. And there's a couple of questions inside there that are a couple points that the teacher brings up. The homeless population, there's a couple of, like Burt brought up the Hawaii Digital Equity Plan that his office is working on. And there's certain covered populations that plan is going to address. There's rural population, veterans, previously incarcerated. That's another challenge too. If you're in prison right now and you were there for a little bit, you've never seen a smartphone, you know, so you're coming out into a completely different world. But if you're homeless or houseless, there's a couple of different people working on it. James Pakele and Auntie out there in Waianae are putting together some things, but it's a challenge. The big challenge is too, if you don't speak English, all of our stuff is in English. If you have disabilities, it's like I had somebody on Kauai in Lihue. We did a couple classes, and Department of Health guy Ray Ho brought over some people, and like 3 of the people in my class were like legally blind, and then 3 of them were from Easter Seals, and it's a challenge when you can't see the screen. So there's all kinds of, I mean, when you can see the screen, it's a challenge. I'm saying 300,000 people in our state are going to struggle with passing this stuff, basic stuff. So going back to the question, even on the libraries, the libraries, there's 51 of them in our state. On Molokai, it has one of the fastest internet speeds that we've tested on that island. It's like 600 megabits per second down.
I think it was even more. It was closer to a gig.
Yeah, it was like
at the library.
amazing. Shout out to Stacy Aldrich on that. That's
Well, how do they do that?
Yeah, you asked.
How would one building have much better speeds than?
You know, some of it is like how much you pay for. You know, because you can pay $30, and like you can go get. Like I just bought gas today at Molokai, and it was only one choice because the regular was not working, so I had to get the premium for $5.99. You know, so this one over here was $5.89 or something. But if you spend $100 and you have internet in Kailua, you can get a gig. You can get 1,000 megabits per second down. But down in Waimanalo, Auntie is going to have like 12 megabits per second. But like, how much does she pay?
I see.
So I'd be interested to see the state support some subsidies on that.
We need to open the door to this question because I think that people caring about this. I'm totally excited about the federal funding finally coming for us. We need to not only let the rural area have the coverage, Arculiana indeed, but you know, basically Waikiki, JP Waikiki, he'd like to see better coverage. Is any of the federal money going towards lowering our internet bills? Prices keep rising. Tim from Kaimuki. This is kind of where, you know, the issue becomes is that if you have a certain income level or you're living in a certain place, you can get a break on your internet bill. Right. But is that just going to cause them to push up the bill on everybody else because there's no particular regulation of those bills? Garrett, I mean, what about the pricing situation? I mean, with all this money gets invested, my tax dollars at work, but do I, as a regular, you know, typical middle class customer, am I going to get a break on my bill at some point, or am I going to pay more so other people can have access, which is okay with me, but.
Well, so Daryl can pay for everybody else's bill, and that's okay with us too. However, so one of the things, so remember we talked about competition, we talked about using these funds as leverage to make sure that we have really good competition in the state. Because these things are in fact, because pricing for internet services is not regulated. It's a pretty purely unregulated service, market driven, but markets work when there's competition. Markets work when there's choice. So the idea here is we make sure that we create an environment in Hawaii where we can continue to drive choice. That will help the market self-regulate to keep it down. It will make it free because these are still businesses. They have to get a return on investment. They have to make profit for their shareholders, and that's cool. But it's also necessary for us to make sure we take care of the people that are that have the greatest need in the community. So we hold up the subsidies for the lowest income and the folks that are in most need, and let competition balance the other side of the lever, so that it doesn't get out of hand. So Daryl's bill doesn't go up to $100 a month and Burt pays $50 a month.
Well, you know, it also strikes me that what you're describing is a great need to educate consumers.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
in order, because competition doesn't work if you don't know what the competition is about, if you don't know that.
That's
you know.
Absolutely true. We actually had a call from a gal out in Pauilo, north of Hilo, and you know, she told me, oh, I have really slow internet service. You know, I'm subscribed to this one company. It's really slow. I can't get any better because I'm in Pauilo. But if you look, she actually had a choice. She could switch to another provider that she didn't know about. So it is about education. It is about outreach. It is about making sure that not just people have a choice, but they know they have a choice.
I think Ala was saying earlier that one of the best ways to get your internet bill lower is call them and say you're going to cut the cord.
It is. Actually, it is.
Thanks for throwing me under the bus. We have these. Like,
everybody's got a turn.
Yeah. Bring it on. Let's do it. Let's do it. Hey, I like this part about getting this bill. I was super excited to hear what happens on that, because the question about the guy from the North Shore, am I going to get better internet? Like, you can pay, but then you're paying like so much money. You're just priced out, and so the people who can pay are getting the fastest internet.
Right.
And then they're just moving ahead. I think what the pandemic did for us was kind of like we don't think about our breathing right now, but then somebody goes and chokes you a little bit, then all of a sudden you start thinking about, I don't have air. So then we're starting to think we don't have internet now.
You know, Burt, everybody has different needs, right? So my son, he's a gamer, and he wants super fast, lots of internet, and I'm sure he's paying for it. But I'm like, and my wife, probably pretty basic use. You know, maybe videos is the most I use. How much of this need for big, fast downloads and uploads is serving people who you know, I mean, what is a basic need? I mean, what are the basic things we need to have to do internet, as opposed to movies and gaming? I mean, do we need that much internet?
You know, Lieutenant Governor said it well when she described trying to make services that are considered a necessity for everybody, whether it's access to health care, whether it's access to education, whether it's access to being able to work from home. These are all, I think, you know, services that are needing to be delivered to all people. And that's why from a digital equity standpoint, we want to address this at the communities that are marginalized, the communities that are at the edge of the network. And the important thing to consider when looking at that kind of model is that if you don't include them from the very beginning of the design of your digital equity program, you're only perpetuating the digital divide, because the marginalized, they're not going to, you know, get on and leverage these services unless there is some help to get them connected or have the kind of right, let's say, digital literacy or understanding of the digital technology. So if we're starting at that point and we're bringing them along, then I think that will help to contribute and provide pathways into the digital economy. But we have to include them from the very beginning, or else we'll continue to perpetuate the digital divide.
Lieutenant Governor Luke, question from caller from Kailua. Is there a way for public libraries to offer technology literacy classes? Now, libraries wouldn't be the only place, but this idea of community classes, I know Kaala provides some of these, is there going to be a significant amount of money for community literacy classes, that sort of thing?
You know, that's a really good question. And in fact, DHHL, which is one of the recipients of the broadband funding, they're already working on a plan and working with library systems, one in particular, Nanakuli, about not just having devices ready, but having education classes and, you know, having people like Kaala come in and educate people on how to use these services. So it seems like, you know, where we are is increasing competition, also making sure that people are ready and able to use the devices, have devices ready, and that's why I think, you know, for all of us sitting here, it's an exciting time.
Okay.
Daryl, I want to also compliment Kaala in that same initiative, because he was able to put in a proposal to Congressman Ed Case, which resulted in a community project fund to actually do exactly that, do digital literacy in the libraries. So we're closely following that project. It is funded. We have,
model,
we have one of the agencies in state of Hawaii to administer it. So that is funded and in play, and will help to get more digital literacy in the library.
Okay, so we've got about 3 minutes left. That's how fast this is.
Okay, that's why I wanted to insert.
So I want to get through a couple more questions. So Raymond via email says, even if more neighborhoods may get higher speed internet access, what about internet security? Right now I'm paying maybe an extra $100 a year for web security. Is under this thing, you give everybody internet, but does that make us all potential victims, or does he even need to be spending $100 a year for web security? Garrett, you're making the most faces.
I was trying to twitch.
Maybe not. So actually part of the digital literacy effort also includes security. And these days, you just have to. It is a very big deal. If folks are not aware, they need to become aware. Stuff like credit monitoring, stuff like watching your credit rating, those things.
That's part of the literacy.
That's definitely part of the literacy issue. It's like driving a car. You're not going to drive a car and not know the rules of the road, right? So this is clearly an issue. $100 a month, a little bit on the high side, but depends what
a year.
Depends,
a year.
Oh, $100 a year. So that's not bad.
I mean,
Okay, but last question, and this is kind of a big question. So, why spend money on fiber? Why not just purchase a satellite for Hawaii so everyone can have internet? Dion from Kailua. Good question, because I mean, is technology going to actually overcome all of these concerns and magically Elon Musk-wise, boom, provide us all internet we need just from the sky and some great provider? I mean, Burt?
Oh, thank you.
What's going to happen next?
Well, keep in mind, there is physics involved. You still have to transmit the internet signal. Satellite still has to go up to these, satellites, come back down. There is a speed that is a part of that equation. And so all the signals, whether it's on fiber or whether it's satellite, is going at the speed of sound, speed of light. If you're going from a fiber connection to the West Coast, you're going 2,000 miles. If you're going to a geosynchronous satellite, that's 22,000 miles.
So the answer is no?
Yeah.
The answer is both. Just like
about 30 seconds.
Just like some of the others, the answer is both. So the technology will continue to increase, will continue to get better. Just like making choices, don't put all your money on one choice. You have to have alternatives. Right now, the fiber speeds are way better. That mix could change, but we still think over time it will be fiber as a base and wireless on top of it.
Mm-hmm. So essentially, not only do you have to prioritize all the demand, you have to identify all these places, you have to watch out for changes in technology, and we need to educate everybody about what they need to know.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yikes. Anyway, thank you all very much, and mahalo for you folks at home for joining us tonight, and we thank our guests, Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke and State Broadband Coordinator Burt Lum, Garrett Yoshimi from the University of Hawaii, and Digital Equity Consultant Kaala Souza. Next week on Insights, it's a crisis that has no simple solution. We want to know if the current programs to curb homelessness in Hawaii are working. Please join us then. I'm Daryl Huff for Insights on PBS Hawaii. Aloha.
Local broadcasts of Insights on PBS Hawaii are made possible by the support of viewers like you. Mahalo, and by First Insurance Company of Hawaii, protecting Hawaii's families and businesses since 1911. Ulupono Initiative, building a more sustainable Hawaii by investing in local food, renewable energy, clean transportation, and waste and freshwater management. Hawaiian Electric, helping residents and businesses prepare for hurricane season. Visit hawaiianelectric.com/safety to get your emergency preparedness handbook. Carl Smith Ball, providing legal services throughout Hawaii and the Pacific since 1857, making a positive difference in the communities where we live and work.
On Masterpiece Mystery.
No one is without sin. Whatever we do,